The following podcast is a W2M Network partnership production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
You are listening to the Jobbers Court Podcast, part of the W2M Network. We're a podcast for wrestling fans old and new. Court is now in session. Hello, welcome back to Jobbers Court. I know it's been a little while, but once again, fiscal year has ended, so the king of Jobbers Court, the Rasquatch, is now ready and available to be spending a lot more time doing this podcasting thing. So, in the meantime, we have with us our typical two guests. We've got the wise old owl of wrestling, Cedric, and the man of 1,004 nicknames. Gentlemen, how is everything with you?
Hey, outstanding as always. I'm just got back to Alaska from a 3-week trip on a tropical island in Guam, and I gotta tell you, it's good to be back in the frigid cold.
Really? Or are you being facetious?
A little bit of both, to be honest with you. I definitely enjoyed the hot weather and good-looking women, but good-looking women aside, I'm very happy to be back with my wife. So I'll trade one for the other because I know the other treats me a lot better.
Yeah,
and it's cheaper to keep them.
Yeah, so the other ones you can just kind of go out on the end of your leash and bark, you know? It is what it is. Cedric, how you been?
A wise man once said,
Is that Lance Storm?
Nothing at all.
I heard that a wise man once said that forgiveness is divine, but you never pay full price for late pizza. Contemplate that for a while. All right. So, today we're going to talk about some topics, and like always, but what I think I want to start out with is just saying thanks to the listeners out there, and just want to talk just for a minute. Make sure you guys know that yes, we are on the W2M network, and that they have a new webpage. So check out W2Mnetwork.com to take a look at anything that they're posting. Our stuff will be there. There's the remainder of the rest of the stuff will be there for their football, all the wrestling related things that they do. So, topics today, guys. The first one I want to get into, and I think we could do some real good back and forth on this, is longer title reigns. Recently, I'd say over the last year and a half, we've been seeing some longer title reigns. You had Nikki Bella, who just broke the Divas Championship title reign. And then you have Charlotte, who became the women's champion, obviously has the longest reign as the women's champion to date. Then you start looking at the Intercontinental Championship with Miz and his tour that he's taken us on. He's had that almost 200 days, and New Day, of course, is on the verge of breaking Demolition's all-time record for holding the tag titles. Since the WrestleMania era, there have not been that many long title reigns. We're talking at around a year. So what do you guys think of these long title reigns? Do you like it or not?
Well, for me, it all depends on the wrestler holding the title. I've always been a believer that the man makes the title, or woman for that matter, in the case of Charlotte, and the newly crowned SmackDown Women's Champion, Becky Lynch. But it just depends on the wrestler itself. If the person can go, if the person can keep the crowd engaged and entertained, then by all means, let's give them a reason to hold the title and make them give us a reason for them to not hold the title, so to speak. I know when Brock Lesnar was the champ for a while there and only showing up every 4 to 5 months and sometimes in 6 months, uh, a lot of people complained about that. In some aspects, I wasn't a fan of not seeing the title on a weekly basis. Don't necessarily have to have the champion wrestle, but I wasn't a fan of not seeing the champion around, period. But on the flip side, it makes sense with the type of character Brock Lesnar is. Um, but overall, I really wasn't a fan of that long title reign. Flip it over to the New Day. I'm really happy with them keeping the title for as long as they have. They're just over 400 days now. Granted, one might argue that they're not as entertaining as they were a few months ago, and not as much, I guess, crop of tag teams to fight against over on Raw. So I guess it's kind of gone stale a little bit. I mean, we've seen them face the Club, or if they're still going by the Club, Gallows and Anderson multiple times now, and that's starting to get kind of raw, so to speak. But I'm in favor of it for the most part. You know, give them a reason to not be champions, is what I say.
Okay, Cedric, what do you think?
Well, for starters, I half agree and half disagree. So I'm like my coffee half and half. Uh, First of all, I think there's a relationship between the wrestler that has the title and the title that the wrestler has. Uh, we've seen where a wrestler is doing really, really well, but that title elevates them a little bit more. I remember New Japan Pro Wrestling when Shinsuke Nakamura finally won a title that people say, this elevated him to the next level. But then when Shinsuke Nakamura won the Intercontinental Championship, they said that he elevated the title because the title was new. So there's a relationship between both of them. In WWE, I think the whole relationship between titles and who holds it has gone to somewhere where not even the owl can go to. I I think that a title reign being there is such a thing as too long, and I think New Day is a great example. I'm not a bandwagoner. I'm not a fan of the title reign being as long as it has been. Uh, I think seeing other companies that have titles for actual 3-person team and seeing them as tag teams and just switching around the title, who's gonna defend it and all that stuff, I'm not a big fan of it. Nor am I a fan of are they heels, are they faces? They're winning by constantly one of them getting involved. So that's a whole different topic too. That this one topic can become a different subtopics.
Sure.
If the wrestler deserves to hold that title, not just because it's best for the monetary portion of the business, but physically the person looks like they should have it. Skill wise, it looks like they should have it, or the persons in the case of a team, then why not? I remember you once telling me how sweet it will be to finally see Charlotte lose the title. So that buildup of her continuously holding the title and winning however she was winning it, or defending it however she was defending it, it made sense at the end when she finally lost it, just to regain it once again within a month, which that to me brings up a whole different topic. So a long title reign, if it makes sense overall, and the title is not losing prestige, but at the contrary, is making for good storylines. Is the stars elevating the title's elevating the star as well. So be it. But when a title reign seems to be forced, a lot of people said that Nikki Bella being that long of a champion was just to remove AJ Lee's title reign because of backstage stories that were going on. Then I don't agree with that because I think it just doesn't make sense. If she has a champion, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Having a champion just for the sake of a champion, I think Dean Ambrose has the longest U.S. title reign. And to me, I'm like, how many times did he wrestled and defended that title during that reign? It's just a handful. So that stuff doesn't make sense to me. You don't have to defend it every month, but when you just carry it over your shoulder and that's it, and do nothing with it, those long reigns for me make no sense. Now, if it's a fighting champion, someone that brings prestige, even a heel. I was a fan of JBL as a champion. I had no problem. For those who have questioned if I like heels and their tactics, I actually enjoy JBL as a champion and how long he had that title. And people did not. I enjoyed it. So if it makes sense, if it looks good, if as a fan I'm enjoying it, definitely have a long reign. But once it loses that value, like New Day constantly defeating a team that we hear every week how great they were in New Japan, but yet they're not even a shadow of who they were in Japan here in WWE. That to me, I think is way overdue for them to lose those titles. Because once they finally do lose that title, who are they going to lose to? That's a whole different topic that comes to mind. How great, how deserving really will be the team that beats them when the club hasn't even been able to beat them at all. So I agree with it if it makes sense for the business side of it, not just monetarily, but just overall the business.
Okay,
I think you touched on a really good point, and before we dive any further into this, I got to say, before there was Bray Wyatt, there was JBL. I am a wrestling god.
And actually,
I miss that so much.
I think Ric Flair was saying that before JBL was also. I am a god. I am a wrestling god, Ric Flair would say. So, for
I
me,
think the devil said I'm wrestling God, but that's different. That's a whole different topic.
Who needs a championship when you're a god? I mean, honestly.
No kidding. Jeez. Tell him to put someone over every once in a while. Good lord. So, all right. So for me, I think you both bring up great points about the title reigns. I have a few things to say, and we'll talk about some specific long title reigns, and I'll just get your opinion, good or bad, on those. But staying more in a generalized topic, long title reigns in this day and age to me are impressive because the champions defend the title so much in comparison to what it was in the 80s and even the 90s. If you think about it, during most of the time in the 80s, I mean, there are only 4 pay-per-views, right? So, during that time, there's only 4 or 5 pay-per-views in the late 80s. The belt was hardly ever defended outside of those pay-per-views. Everything else was led to just build up to those 4 big matches. So the champion was a big deal, but having it that long didn't seem as big of a deal because, they just weren't defending the title nearly as much. Nowadays, shoot, the champion's defending it, every few weeks, if not more. And so long title reigns in today's day and age are extremely impressive to me. And I think when you not only have the title reign, but you also enjoy the person holding the title, I think that's great. I mean, you don't even have to look any further than WrestleMania 1. Hulk Hogan didn't even defend the title on WrestleMania 1. He wrestled Mr. T. And so, on a big event like that, I think the only titles that were defended in WrestleMania 1, one of the biggest events in wrestling at that time, was the Women's Championship and and the tag team titles. I think that was it. I think those were the only 2 titles in WrestleMania 1. I mean, you can fact check me. I mean, it is political season, so fact check me. But I believe that those were the only 2 titles that were defended on that one pay-per-view, and to me that's kind of crazy. So just wanted to throw that out there and see what you guys thought, just from what I can remember of the 80s and then you had Bret Hart, who kind of changed all that in the 90s, in 95, 94, 95, where he was defending the title. He was wrestling almost every night. I mean, he was a fighting champion. No doubt about it during his reign. So, what do you guys feel about that? And do you think I'm off base?
No, I definitely agree with you. It does seem like they are defended more frequently, and I think with the brand split and the more how do I say this? The more close together the network specials are, it seems like as soon as one network special is over, we're already finding out what the next championship battle will be at the next network special. But I do like that recently, at least on SmackDown, they've been doing championship matches just because. And I think that's always special and unique to see the fighting champion or see the reluctant champion forced to defend his belt when he doesn't want to, a la Miz. I think those are pretty cool. But I will say, kind of like how Cedric put, when you have the long title reigns and it just seems like a lack of story development, like we're going to keep them champions because we don't know what to do with someone else's champion, I think that's pretty lazy and it gets tiresome. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay. All right. So what I'm gonna do then? Oh, actually, Cedric, do you have anything else before I was gonna start delving deeper into this topic? But do you have anything
No,
else?
I was looking at shout out to cagematch.net. I was looking at their database, and it's showing that from August 2015, when the New Day won the title in a fatal 4-way match and in a pay-per-view, they've only defended the title 17 times, and that's probably easily more than once a month. But honestly, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like these guys have been at times holding on for these titles, and it just seems like they're just holding on to them. You know, I don't think they need a, a, a long title reign. The biggest drawback is if you have up and coming stars or even stars already set that you feel like, man, this guy or gal will definitely look good with that title. You're kind of holding those folks back, and I think that maybe in the tag team division, especially on Raw, I don't see who else outside of the club really at this time should be able to beat them. And my son was watching the match with me, and even he was like, "Dad, if these guys were to win next week, for example, he's like, they need so much boost for me to believe that they deserve that title reign. He's like, because they've lost so many times to this team that they don't seem on Raw like the stars that they were in New Japan. So I think that's one drawback of having somebody hold the title for that long. Now, if the person doesn't deserve it, they don't deserve it. But when you have legitimate folks that deserve the title or can actually carry those titles, and they don't win, they just continuously lose. To me, I lose interest at that point, and it doesn't help when you're not a huge fan of the folks carrying it. But setting that aside, I just think that a long title reign is good if it makes sense. And I'm repeating myself, but
I got a game we can play here real quick. As far as some of these newer champions that we're seeing on SmackDown and Raw, who do you think would best deserve a longer title reign? And let's start with Roman Reigns as the new U.S. champ. Should he have a longer reign or a short reign?
I think he should have a Roman reign.
Haha.
I was actually content with Rusev being the champion, and seeing him lose kind of threw me off a little bit. I really thought that he had the star power to be what Miz is as the Intercontinental Champion on SmackDown. I really thought it could be the same for Raw. I think that really he could have just continued on as champion and mauling everybody. I think they missed an opportunity with him. But now that Reigns has the title, to be honest with you, for the sake of the title's prestige, which I just bought a DVD on it, I hope he has a long reign as the U.S. title holder. I don't think the WWE universe is ready for him to be Universal Champion at this time.
Right on. What do you think, Wrath?
Well, for me, I think that there's not too many people on the roster right now that I would rather see holding that title right now. I think that a guy like Sami Zayn would deserve a run at like a mid-card title like that. But if Roman remains in this kind of tweener state that he's in right now, I don't know who they're going to have him feuding with next. And I don't think there's any heel on the roster that I can look at that deserves that more than Rusev did. And, I mean, they kind of solved that already. Roman beat him. So, I mean, unless they're going to wrestle again, I don't know. I don't think there's any other heel on the roster I look at and go, you know what, they would be a great U.S. champion. They'd be a really good challenge for Roman Reigns.
Yeah, and as much hate as a lot of fans give on Roman Reigns, I mean, the guy walks out there and you can see he has that star charisma about him. You know, he might not be the best on the mic. We might not like every single thing he does in the ring, but the guy screams moneymaker every time he walks out there, and you can see that in how he carries himself. So I think it is probably a good move to keep him as champion, and probably keep him as champion for a while. Because yeah, it's like you said, there's really not a lot of other mid card guys out there that really are poised to take that title away from him anytime soon. And if you're not going to have him in the main event status, you know, it kind of like what we had with John Cena last year. You know, just keeping him as U.S. title champ for a while, probably a good move. What about over on SmackDown with the Beauty and the Man Beast, Heath Slater and Rhino? You guys think they're going to have a long title reign, or you think they gave him the titles just so that Heath could have a contract?
I'll start this one. I think that they kind of just wanted Heath to have a contract, to be honest. I can't see them having a really, really long title reign because, I mean, Rhino still has a political career and there is an election coming up. So from that perspective, I don't know if he's going to be able to balance all those things at once. But I do think that as much as I've been enjoying Heath Slater and what he's doing with Rhino, I think there's more deserving tag teams on that show than them.
What do you think, Cedric?
Agree. I agree. I think this is SmackDown's response to the New Day, a B version of it, and it's gonna be short lived. I don't see them. Some of the teams that SmackDown has, some of the tag teams, I just cannot see them continuously winning with Heath Slater barely doing anything, and then Rhino just goring the opponent, and that's it. I think that will do a disservice to the titles. It will do a disservice to the opponent. So I think it's gonna be short lived. People are gonna enjoy it for a little while, and then we'll probably have one of the. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm starting to like this new Usos, to be honest, or not so much new, but going back to their roots. I kind of like this look, so I will have no problem with seeing them win. As much as people like Gable and Jordan, you know, hey, if you guys think they're ready, to definitely give them a chance. You know, it's no, I have no issues with that. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing the Ascension do something positive for crying out loud.
They did win a match the other day because they were paired with another tag team.
Yeah. I get tired of hearing them being people reminding us, JBL reminding us that they were the longest reigning NXT tag title holders, which meant something at the time, to be honest, to become what they became. That makeup that one of them had, I was like, dude, what happened? Did one of the Kiss guys join wrestling? But
yeah.
Hey, just quick point. For Roman Reigns, people that hating on Reigns, if you haven't watched the last Monday Night Raw, Rusev versus Reigns, the whole he can't wrestle, that champ better change, because that was a pretty nice little wrestling clinic. Not getting off topic too much, but I kind of enjoyed what I saw. That nice, slow, methodical hold for hold from both guys. I was quite impressed, but that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I think it's a good feel-good short story, but yeah, I think with what the Usos are doing, they're poised to take over as champs. And as far as my last title, long or short, I think with Becky Lynch, I think with the amount of push that they've had her and the amount of story they've given her ever since she debuted as this underdog, everyone's against her. I would feel really good to see her have at least a few months as champion, and not just, or at least one or two defends before she loses it.
I think the belt is going to turn on her eventually.
She trips over it, walking to the ring.
Something. It'll be like Smeagol with the ring of power. You know, eventually it'll just leave her. But no, I hope Becky Lynch has a nice long reign. I think she deserves it and is easily the most talented, at least from a face wrestler perspective, on that show. If not, well, I was thinking, I mean, Natalya is really accomplished as well, but other than that, I don't think any of the other people on that show are just nearly accomplished enough to hold the title.
With the way Natalya's been booked for so long, I really don't see her as champion, or at least a true viable champion. If she were to hold it, to me, it'd be like, okay, we went from Becky Lynch, which no, I'm not a Becky Lynch kind of guy, but she's no Charlotte. But
Blasphemy.
definitely, in my opinion, when I see the ladies that make the women's division on SmackDown, Natalia, Naomi, Alexa Bliss. I think it will be too soon for Alexa Bliss.
Mm-hmm.
Eva Marie. Oh my gosh. Okay. Next, Carmella. I like the new Carmella. I like the angry Carmella. Kind of is that's the thin girl, small package type girl, being as mean as she is with Nikki. I kind of like them. I'm not gonna lie. Alexa, she has her thing going, but I think it will be too soon. So definitely, it's a brand new title, and making her reign be that short, I think it would just take away from the title. So keep it on her, make her win some good matches, some hard fought matches, and like Rascal said, hopefully the title doesn't turn on her, because every friend she's had, gosh dang it, it just turned on that poor woman. She might wake up one day with a hardcore championship on her belt.
Now that would be badass, or bad last, I should say. Yeah, one thing I really do appreciate about SmackDown right now is that, as much as I hope that Becky does have a long title reign, the way that they've built up their women's division is really surprised me, because I feel like every one of those women at least has some kind of legitimate shot at the title. Maybe not immediately, but down the road, I could see each one of those women as a potential candidate, as opposed to over on Raw. I mean, aside from aside from Sasha Banks and now Bayley, you really don't see many of the other women. I mean, sure, you see Dana Brooke there, but she's pretty much just the comedy heater, so to speak. Yeah. So I definitely appreciate what SmackDown's doing with their women division.
And Nia Jax. Let's not forget Nia Jax on Raw.
Yeah, and I think they need to keep her really, really slow build for her.
Protected as long as possible.
They start feeding her to some of the upper talents, she's going to get exposed real quick.
And you know what? She had a pretty good match with Bayley on NXT a while back. The problem with someone her size is it's very hard to believe that one of those other women can beat her. And you run into the same problem. Again, I'm kind of dating myself, my wrestling knowledge. I don't even know if you guys even remember Aja Kong. But she, in the 90s, like around 93, I think it was 92 to 94 or something like that, when they still had women's wrestling, she was just this unstoppable monster. She had to weigh like maybe, I would say 200 pounds, maybe 215, somewhere around there. Just huge.
You're talking about Aja Kong, not Awesome Kong.
No, Aja Kong. Yeah, not Awesome Kong. Aja Kong. So, thought she was unbeatable, had all these things going for her, and then when she wrestled Alundra Blaze, it was one of the best women's matches I've ever seen, because we got to see Alundra Blaze actually hit her with a German suplex and pinned her that way, because that was her finish. And nobody would have ever thought that she would have been able to hit her with that move. But that's the problem you run into, is there wasn't anybody. There was one person on the planet that could have challenged Aja Kong in that heyday, and that was Alundra Blaze. Nobody else would have ever touched her in the entire division. And with Nia Jax, you run into that same potential issue, is she's so large. To get somebody believable to beat her is very tough. Like, even watching her sell the other day for Alicia Fox, I was like, don't do it. Just stop selling for her. Like, you got to keep your image to be so powerful, even against somebody. Because I think Alicia Fox is a former women's champion, but it's just she shouldn't have got even. I mean, she had a good amount of offense, but she's one of those talents that doesn't even need to leave her feet. She's an Andre the Giant type of style of wrestler, where when you do get them off their feet, it is like, wow, unbelievable. Or like Earthquake, somebody like that, where when they do get them off their feet, it's just the announcers can really put it over, because it's like just something that doesn't happen very often. But I think when she did go off her feet, there was a lot of offense that was going on while she was on the ground. So just a few things in my mind that I try to remember when I'm thinking about it.
I dig it. I dig it. Well, that's all I had for that little quick game. Just want to see your guys' thoughts on that.
So what I think is well, I was gonna ask what you guys thought of the Miz, for instance. A long-standing record, is the Honky Tonk Man's Intercontinental title reign. And let me see while I'm looking at this. Anybody know offhand about how many days that was?
I'd have to look it up, to be honest
Oh
with you. I
man,
know
okay.
it was an ungodly
I know it was
number,
well over 400 days. 454 days. So, do you want the Miz to break Honky Tonk Man's record or not?
well, I'll be honest with SmackDown this last week. I think they kind of wrote them into a corner. Um, I really don't see Dolph Ziggler leaving WWE in 2 weeks. So I think they've already kind of written that off.
I don't believe they have. So a lot of reports out there that, no, I guess spoilers, but a lot of reports out there that Ziggler is not going to be re-signing his contract. A lot of reports.
We'll see. I don't want to believe that. I really don't want to believe that. I think this is going to be the push that he's been deserving for such a long time, and I think this is one of those new evolution of kayfabe kind of things with those false rumors being out there.
Yeah.
At least that's what I want to believe. Don't take
I
that away from me, damn it.
I will tell you this. I hate to say it, I don't think Dolph deserves to beat The Miz. I don't know if there's anybody on SmackDown on the entire roster that deserves to beat The Miz right now. He's at the top of his game both in the ring and out of the ring. His heel work that he's been doing has been just sensational this entire reign. And me personally, I would love to see him hold it and go ahead and break the Honky Tonk Man's record, particularly because A, the Honky Tonk Man didn't defend it all that often, and two, every match he did defend it in, he cheated to win. There was not one single match that I can ever. I remember the Honky Tonk Man, and he was vile. Like, I can't think of a single match he ever won clean unless it was against just a job guy. So, Cedric, what do you think on this?
I'm just going over the well, this roster might be a little bit old, even though it's a few months, because Alberto Del Rio is not there anymore. So I'm just going over the potential folks that can beat him. And I agree with you. You know, Randy's not gonna go for the title. I don't think Bray Wyatt should be going for that title either. I think Bray Wyatt's been overdue for a world championship for a while. But Kane, yeah, definitely not really. Zack Ryder will be the only name, or Apollo Crews, and I think Apollo Crews is still too green. Zack Ryder definitely could potentially, but he's more about a tag team now with Majo, so I don't see why. And then you have, well, I guess the only one person we have is Baron Corbin. That would be the only one person, but then, and even they have kind of like looked at each other because Baron Corbin's heel. He don't care who he fights though. Heel versus heel, he doesn't really give a crap, and I think that kid can at some point break out. I think the Miz should hold on to that title. I'm not so sure if for that long. I'm not sure if I would buy the whole over a year as champion, but if there's nobody ready to take it away from him, I think this will be the one time that I would say, then don't. Now, you guys know me. It depends who it is. I'm not a big fan of his wife always getting involved. That to me, but that's part of their persona.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand why they're doing it. But for right now, I think just like I was in an agreement with Rusev losing the U.S. title, I don't think there's no reason right now for The Miz to lose it. I think they just have him keep having good fights. Don't have him all the time acting like a coward and trying to run away from a fight. Have him come out all ticked off and put on a good show. He has a really good moveset. I've never had a problem with The Miz with a title. I even supported his World Championship reign. I thought it was pretty interesting. It caught me off guard and I enjoyed it. I like getting caught off guard. with a good title change or storyline. So I'm okay with him continuing his tour for over a year. Depends how things are going, but for now, definitely keep the guy with the title.
All right. So talked a good amount about this as far as our title reigns and what we think of the
Right,
longer versus the shorter title reigns. But
right.
what else you guys got?
Last question. I got one name that I want to throw out, and I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think about AJ Styles having a decent title reign as the SmackDown champion, and even a Kevin Owens having a decent title reign as the Raw champion? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Uh, okay. So I'll start with KO. I look on the Raw roster, and it's another one of those things where I look at it and I go, who else has been performing at as high a level as KO? I think you can't say there's too many people out there that in ring are performing at. Rollins got a nice long title reign last year. However, most of that title reign was kind of tarnished um, due to everything going on with the Authority. Unfortunately for Kevin Owens, I don't think he's going to hold on to it that long because I think that when the Seth Rollins face turn is 100% in full swing and actually happens, Kevin Owens is going to be the victim of that title change. So I don't actually anticipate him holding it that much longer. I think Seth Rollins is probably going to get that title back fairly soon. Um, on the other side of the coin, AJ Styles could hold the title forever. I that's fine with me right now. He hasn't done anything that's shown me that he doesn't deserve to hold it, and I feel so much better with him holding the title than I did with Dean Ambrose. Although I do think Cena's going to get his 16th title reign. Maybe not this upcoming network special, but I do think down the road it will happen, and he may even beat Ric Flair's record down the road. Huckster?
Huckster?
Yeah, I think you make both good points. As far as on Raw with Kevin Owens, I think he's just a placeholder until Seth Rollins has that full face turn. Now, I don't think that's going to happen soon. I think they're going to draw that out and make a huge, long, big up and come up and so to speak for Seth Rollins. I think they're going to have the Triple H match before Seth Rollins takes out Kevin Owens. And what I would love to see is at like Survivor Series, whenever they have that, that's when I would like to see Triple H versus Seth Rollins. And honestly, I'd like to see Triple H beat Seth Rollins and force, say, like a kayfabe injury, and have Seth Rollins come back at Royal Rumble, win the Royal Rumble, and defeat KO at WrestleMania. I'd like to see KO hold it for a long while, and so we can
Wow.
get a good long burn on this story. Now, flip it over to SmackDown. I think it's only a matter of time before John Cena ties Ric Flair, but I don't think it's going to happen at this next network special. I think that AJ Styles is at his best right now, and I don't think, especially with him as a heel and some of the tactics he's been using recently, I don't think that he's going to drop the title this week, but I think it's going to happen soon within the next few months.
Hmm. I think Finn Balor wins the Rumble, but I like where your head's at. Cedric, what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, when it comes to AJ Styles, man, I really hope that they don't that then they not give this guy a title reign just to say that he had a title reign. I really hope he's not gonna get booked to lose that title for at least 6 to 8 months. That's just what I would like. I would like for the guy to carry it. Shoot, if he can carry it for a whole year, so be it. Um, I have no problem with Cena at some point tying that record and even breaking it at some point. I have no problem with that. I'm not never been a Cena hater, but the truth is, I think some of his best matches happen as the U.S. title holder. I really believe that. So if he can give me that kind of quality of fights with the world title,
I wouldn't mind him at some point at least tying the record. But hopefully they keep Styles as a world champion for a long time, because just not only for what he's done in the WWE, but just for for me personally, what he stands for as a wrestler and what he's done throughout his whole career. KO, I was always a fan of his, and I've always wanted him to be champion. Before I found out that Finn Balor got hurt, I really was hoping and praying for Finn Balor to have a long Universal Champion reign, because I like Finn Balor a lot. So I hate to agree with Hulk standing, not because it's Hulk standing, but because it's kind of hurtful. I really agree with him when he says that I think KO is a placeholder right now, and I hate to even agree with that because of that, because I really love KO. I think KO stands for a lot more than just a wrestler. He proves that the body size doesn't have to be that muscular guy or the small guy. This guy's doing it all. So that's why I would like him to have a long reign. But I like Hulk Standing's proposition. I like yours as well. So I think it's just a matter of time before he loses. But I actually would prefer something where Finn Balor comes back and Finn wins his title back and definitely has a longer title reign than just overnight.
Yeah, I think I agree with Mick Foley when, guys like him and Kevin Owens, I mean, they still bench at about, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's Mick Foley's joke he tells all the time. But I I hope that Kevin Owens, isn't just tossed aside after this whole ordeal, and if he does lose the title, that's what I'm afraid of. And I know like the internet chatter is always like, oh well, they haven't buried Kevin Owens yet, and it's like, well, hopefully they don't after he loses the title. But they've booked him fairly strong since he's been there, so obviously like Triple H likes the guy. That's who brought him in originally, and I think that they've been impressed with his work. So yeah, as far as title holders go, I don't have too much else to say. I don't think anybody's gonna get anywhere near Hulk Hogan's title reign in the 80s, and I think that's the longest one since Bruno Sammartino, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, you're looking at Hulk Hogan had it for 1,474 days, and if we ever saw a title reign like that again, I would be shocked.
Yeah, and I think that's just an ungodly amount of time to be champion. I mean, nothing against Hulk Hogan, but wrestling has evolved so much since the 80s. I just don't see that working or going over too well without the crowd rioting.
Yeah, and that's the third longest title reign of all time. In fact, in the modern era, only CM Punk at 434 days has gotten even remotely close to that. So, still, CM Punk's title reign is one of the most impressive things that I've seen in a long, long time, just because of the sheer amount of time he held it and the amount of times he defended it. All right. So, you guys got anything else on this before we change up topics just a little?
No, I'm good. Let's press.
All right. So, I want to take just a couple minutes because I know we didn't talk about it, but we did talk we touched on a few things from the Clash of Champions, just a few things that we talked about. The only thing I kind of wanted to get your guys' opinion on is just thus far, if you had to compare Raw and SmackDown with the brand split, which network special did you think was better, and which show are you enjoying the most? Hulkster, what do you think?
Oh, geez. Well, as far as network specials, I say that Clash of Champions was pretty dang excellent. I gave it a B plus plus overall, and the only reason I gave it a B plus plus instead of a straight A was because of the finish to that Cesaro Sheamus match. But every one of those matches, I mean, really the only match I didn't give at the minimum of B was the pre-show match with Nia Jax and Alicia Fox. But aside from the ending to the Cesaro-Sheamus match, I freaking loved almost every single match. Good solid wrestling and good stories being told. Sure, there was a bit of interference, maybe a little more interference than I'd like to see overall in the show, but I really appreciated everything they did during that network special. But as far as on a week-to-week basis, I'm absolutely loving watching SmackDown every week. While I was in Guam, I missed the last 2 weeks of SmackDown and had to catch up over the last couple of days on Hulu. But man alive, SmackDown has just got me completely engrossed in its product, and the Talking Smack segment afterwards has just helped bar none. And I love that they have that over Raw as far as something different. So I say network special. I like Raw's Clash of Champions, but I'm loving the week by week process that SmackDown's putting together.
Okay, Cedric, what about you?
I think when it comes to the network specials, comparing Raw to Clash of Champions
Yeah, Clash
to
of Champions.
SmackDown I think was Backlash.
Correct.
I definitely enjoyed Raw more. This past Raw network special. So I read in one of the W2M on the W2M Facebook page. Sean asked who was the MVP, and my answer was wrestling. You know, every match had really good wrestling, in my opinion. I might not have agreed with some of the decisions at the end of the match, but definitely each match had some really good wrestling. So I definitely enjoyed that network special more than I did the SmackDown one. Uh, week to week, I really like Raw, especially now with the cruiserweight division on Raw. I definitely like it. Don't see how some people think that one cruiserweight per show is what's needed. I think that two two cruiserweight matches, I have no problem with that. And the only thing is that Raw is a little bit too long. You know, the 3 hours at times I can find myself losing some interest. That would be my only criticism of it. SmackDown, I find it entertaining. They have a lot of fun segments. The commentating is brutal. I think that turns me off every single time. I think the commentating on SmackDown is brutal. I'm not a big fan of the whole constantly, if it's not Shane McMahon, it's Daniel Bryan. I think they're taking way too much. It's almost like an authority type thing, but on SmackDown. So I'm not buying too much into that. I think even Mick Foley, when he shows up on Raw, especially his last episode, there was a point to make and an advancement of a storyline or to build a storyline. So I'm favoring right now both network special and weekly show. Right now I'm favoring Raw as it is. I haven't watched Talking Smack, so I don't want Talking Smack to persuade me towards SmackDown. Just show for show, uh, I'm liking Raw overall.
Yeah, I guess I'm the lone wolf then on the other side. It's funny how we've all three split this. So I like I told you guys, obviously I gushed over it on the podcast, but I still think Backlash to me was a better show, and it gave me like just feelings that I hadn't felt in a very long time. Take that however you want, but it just I loved it that much, and I like Clash of Champions. Still thought it was a great show. It was very overbooked to me, and I think that was the only problem I had was there was so much interference in each match, and the amount of stuff that was going on in those matches. I'm okay with one match here or there with one of the heels and victorious using tactics, but this had run-ins. It felt very Attitude Era-esque, I guess, with the amount of run-ins that there were, but with less risque material. So it was just sort of weird to me the amount of interference and run-ins and things like that we had in Clash of Champions. Obviously, two completely different people booking these shows because the way that they were put together, obviously just completely different. But week to week, man, I flip over to Monday Night Football. I'm watching football on Mondays. Raw has not sucked me in to such a degree that I can't watch it the next night. But SmackDown Live, I have to be home to watch. I have to sit down and I have to dedicate that 2 hours, and I can't miss it. So for me, I prefer SmackDown in both regards. And I did say, after the draft that I felt SmackDown had the better roster, and I still would stand by that statement, and I think that they're starting to make the most out of it. One thing, Cedric, is SmackDown has scaled back on Shane McMahon, and they have scaled back on Daniel Bryan as well in the last couple of episodes. In fact, you didn't see Daniel Bryan at all on this last episode of SmackDown. I don't think you saw Shane McMahon either. So I think, maybe they got some feedback about that, and maybe they're trying to change it up on the show as well.
Hopefully. I need to watch this week's SmackDown. But going off what I've seen up to this point, even on the pay-per-view itself, I was like, come on, guys, like you guys showing up, it feels more like an actual episode, a longer episode than an actual network special. So if they do cut back a little bit, it will be, for me, it will be a plus. And roster-wise, I think the one thing I liked about the roster is that you're gonna give other people an opportunity while still having big names on the show, like a Randy Orton, like a John Cena, AJ Styles. Even though he's a certified, he's a main roster kind of guy. For all purposes for WWE, he was still like new. So I actually enjoy what they have. But as of now, Raw, is the one that I like. But yeah, SmackDown is not such a B level show as some people want to talk. I think they have the talent. So it's just a matter of just like you said, just continue to develop and push forward. I think they could surprise. They definitely have the potential to surprise. That's for sure. That is definite.
Hux, you got anything else on this?
Nah, I think I've said my piece. What else you got for us?
Well, we took just a minute, like I said, to talk about those things. One thing I wanted to ask you guys about, Dana Brooke's storyline. You like it or you don't like it? There's some rumors out there that all this that's going on with her is supposed to lead up to another babyface turn potentially for Dana Brooke. Would you guys want to see that or not as part of the storyline?
I'm honestly kind of torn. I see the potential in Dana Brooke, but I think she's still leaps and bounds away from Sasha, Bayley, and Charlotte to really make a difference, if that makes sense. I will say her, I don't know if I'm going to call it promo skills, but her acting ability is impressive. I enjoyed the little segments that she had with the club. I thought those were kind of neat. But I can see where they're going with the storyline here as far as a face turn and at least a turn against Charlotte. But watching her on NXT, I enjoyed her so much more as a heel on NXT that I would rather see her stay heel and turn against Charlotte and just make it as one of those Charlotte's all alone and she's burned all the bridges in her life, that she kind of has this big fall coming. So I would rather see her do that and stay heel but turn against her rather than a face turn and a big push for her. I don't think she's earned that spot just yet for a big push.
Cedric, what about you?
No, I'm not gonna go as far as with the whole earning thing. Because call me the anti-owl or the evil owl, or just don't call me. I'm not a big super bandwagon type guy with Sasha or Bayley. I like Sasha. I like Bayley. I've been sitting down watching their matches, trying to study their moves, study what happens within the ring, and I'm like, these girls are okay. I think Sasha takes a lot of risks. Hopefully, her career doesn't get too shortened by some of the risks that she takes. Mm-hmm. And Bayley, some of the things that I see, even the whole hulking up after getting hit a few times on a turnbuckle, I was like, I'm not too sure I'm buying this with your character, your sweet, innocent character. But the one thing I have with Dana Brooks, and my wife says it best, there's in a Spanish lucha libre, the AAA, there was one of the commentators would say punta talón when he saw a luchador kind of going left, right here, right foot here, left, right, left, like almost not flowing, but almost a mechanical movement. I think that's the way Dana Brooks sometimes wrestles, almost like somebody put, okay, you have to left here, foot here, right foot here, move, push. Like every move of hers is so robotically calculated that sometimes it doesn't look real. Does she have potential maybe down the road? Maybe, but right now I don't think she could stand on her own and be that top wrestler unless she wows me. I was gonna say blows me, but it
Good
might be taken the
lord.
wrong way. Unless she wows me with new wrestling moves and just a whole different attitude that I'm like, whoa. But she definitely, I was sold on the whole Emma and her pairing. Even though it was more Emma wrestling, she more on the outside, just as a ballet type, shouting what to do and just giving her encouragement. So I'm hoping that at some point Emma returns and something does happen where they pair them together again. But I'm not too sure we'll buy too much her being turned straight face and actually having a true push. But then again, Carmella surprised me with his heel turn, so who knows? But right now, for what I'm seeing, and not trying to foresee the future,
Mm.
I think that she's okay where she's at for now.
I would say being Dana, it would be very hard for her to stand on her own 2 feet for another reason. But so uh, see,
Heyo.
in all seriousness though, I just think she's too green still in general as a wrestler.
Mm.
I think that's why she looks so mechanical. She's a great heater, no doubt about it. She's got the ability to come out there and she can be that hype woman, and really
Oh,
get out there and draw heat for somebody. I think that that's something that she does actually, do very well. But I think she's a little bit her head's a little bit underwater on the main roster. Um, and even if you were to take her down to NXT when it comes to just wrestling experience, she just doesn't have the same amount. I just I don't think that there's a better female athlete than Charlotte. As much as I love the other people and their characters and all that, she she has the great facial expressions, the great abilities. I love her talking in the ring. But then she has that presence of her dad, but has like 8 times the athleticism. And so it's crazy to me that you see that in someone, and of all the kids that Rick had to come up in the business, like she's the one. She's just an elite athlete. So the women's roster, I just don't see there being much room for Dana, but I think they're keeping her with Charlotte mainly to help her out and to kind of carry her along with her for now as she continues to learn the ropes. All right, cool. Well, let's see. We are getting closer to the 1 hour mark, so still got a little bit we want to cover. So something we completely dropped since July, right, guys? It was our fantasy booking segment. Sad we got away from it, but at the same time, we just had so many other things we were trying to discuss. So let's bring that back. Cedric, you had the bracket. You were keeping that for us, and so why don't you tell us the semifinals? Because I believe that's where we left off.
Yep. So our two semifinal matches will be the Heart Foundation versus the Legion of Doom, and our second match will be the Outsiders versus the Surprise Dark Horse, whatever you want to call it. Them boys, the Briscoe brothers.
All right, so we'll start with the Legion of Doom versus the Heart Foundation. You can go back and listen to us break these tag teams down, you know, into great detail on some of the previous episodes, so we won't take too long to do that. Mainly, I want to know, who do you think is going to win? How do you see this match going? Cedric, why don't you start us out?
I'll keep it short and simple. I think Legion of Doom, in my opinion, would win. I think power versus power. I don't see how anybody would deny that both members of the LOD are are not stronger than both members from the Heart Foundation. Definitely, they have the Anvil, but if I put the Anvil versus uh, Animal, I just don't. I don't see him taking them on. Hawk was not any slouch in the power category. And obviously, the Hart Foundation has the technical encyclopedia of wrestling and Bret Hart. But although not to that level, don't sell short some of the technicality that even Hawk showed in LOD. And I said Hawk, not Hawk. But I really think that it will be more of the strength from the get go from LOD. I think at some point, whether through injury, through a certain move, the Hart Foundation will start taking over for a little while. But I think at the end, just one of those hot tags that the fans love so much. I would really, I think LOD, whether they play heel or face, I think they will take this, because as heels, they definitely will be very, very bad. But I've always seen them as faces for the most part during my time, so I can just see them taking over and just winning. I think the power and speed will probably take over some of the more technical, less powerful speed that Hart Foundation had. And this is like just team versus team.
Okay, Hulkster.
All right. Well, you've got arguably the two greatest tag teams in WWE history with Hawk and Animal versus the Hart Foundation. And it's really awkward to have this in the semifinals and not the actual finals themselves. And it's really, really hard to put these two against each other without putting prestige into it. Because, I mean, Bret Hart, you've got arguably the best pure athlete and technician that pro wrestling's ever seen. In my opinion, definitely more so than Kurt Angle, and arguably right there on the same level with AJ Styles. I don't know if you want to put AJ above Bret Hart, but he's definitely up there in the same conversation. But with Hawk and Animal, man, like, you can't underestimate Hawk's agility and athleticism, or Animal's pure raw strength. And I would say Animal definitely would beat out Jim the Anvil Neidhart if for some reason they were able to isolate Bret Hart from the match. But man, like, this is a tough one. Going back, I mean, we've definitely seen some matches against the two, especially when Hawk and Animal first debuted. But man, where they've been versus where they were when they first started wrestling these guys, I don't know if I can put the Hart Foundation above LOD. I'm going to have to put Hawk and Animal as the winners of this one.
Yeah, I think what's crazy with this whole ordeal is this obviously happened several times, and I remember watching a few of these matches, and much like the Hart Foundation, they were able to handle a team like Demolition. So we know that they can wrestle versus teams, much larger than them. But you guys are 100% right. I think that the Legion of Doom at the end of the day, and this is what, to me, is what's funny about what we saw, the Legion of Doom, not the Road Warriors, but the Legion of Doom, were still probably would beat the Hart Foundation. And if you include their time that they did as the Road Warriors, like back in their days in the NWA and stuff like that, they were unbeatable. They came out, they wrestled squash matches against any tag team. I don't care how good a tag team, they came out, they squashed them, they went home. And the term Road Warrior Pop was invented for a reason, because those guys got some of the loudest ovations, ever, no matter where they went, just because the people loved them. I mean, they're such a dominant tag team that it's hard to imagine, as good a technician as Bret is, as powerful as Jim is. Those guys had great teamwork. At the end of the day, the Legion of Doom, you kind of run into that outsiders territory where they're just such big, dominant guys, that it's very, very hard to defeat them. And since this is just a straight up match, you don't have any gimmicks. You don't have a ladder match where Bret Hart could use his agility to take advantage. You don't have a no DQ match where Bret and Anvil could set some type of ambush to trap them. Nah, just a straight up tag team matchup. Yeah, I would say the Legion of Doom is gonna win. So we have to put them into the final. 3-0. So definitely no dispute there on who won this one. So that brings us to our next set of tag teams, which is who again, Cedric?
The Outsiders versus the Briscoe brothers.
Oh man. Okay. So Hawkster, why don't you start us off on this one?
All right. Well, who would have thought when we started this that a Ring of Honor tag team, a team that's never, ever been in the WWE, would make it to the semifinals and the Briscoe brothers, let alone versus two men who pretty much changed the face of the industry back in the 90s with the Outsiders, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. As smart as Kevin Nash and Scott Hall are inside the ring as a tag team, I don't know if they ever truly clicked as well as some of the other tag teams we've had. And part of the reason why they've lasted this long is because they were so smart as individual wrestlers that pretty much overshined some of their inability as a cohesive tag team unit. And not taking anything away from them as a tag team, but I mean, I think we can all agree that they were much better single wrestlers than they were tag team wrestlers. Where you have the Briscoe brothers, and despite never being in the WWE, everywhere they've been singles champions and tag team champions. New Japan, ROH, and the countless indies that they've all been a part of. But man, this is the one I have to think about. I think in terms of strength and power, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash have a slight advantage. But when it comes to speed and agility, I think that the Briscoe brothers definitely have a little bit of an advantage on them. And I think what separates them from the Outsiders in this match is their uncanny ability to do the uncanny. And I think they would surprise Scott Hall and Kevin Nash in this match. I think they would outsmart them in ways that you wouldn't think. I think they would be very unorthodox, and we've seen that in countless matches that they've had against top tag teams from around the world. So I think I'm going to have to put them boys over. I think that we're going to have a non-WWE tag team in the finals, or a non-WWE owned tag team going into the finals, because I mean, you know, the Outsiders were WCW in their heyday.
True.
So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. You guys probably going to disagree with me, but that's all right.
Well, I don't know, Cedric. What do you think?
Although I wasn't always the biggest fan of the Outsiders when it came to the tournament or even real life in their time in WCW,
like the way you say that.
I have to say that I'm having a really hard time with this one. You know, the Briscoe brothers, who I love when they once clarified for everybody who thinks that we've never been asked to join the WWE, is that we've been asked countless times, and I guess the relationship with Mr. McMahon is a really good one. It's just that the time hasn't been ever right for them, and I'm glad, because I would hate to see their legacy get tarnished with a not productive club-like time in WWE. They are faster. They're definitely more crazy. I think nobody can deny those kids are crazy. But this is one of those times that I'm not sure if speed and technicality would definitely beat out the the strength that both Hall and Nash had, because like Hawk Standing so eloquently mentioned, you know, these guys were, as individual wrestlers, known to be that smart in the ring, you know, and they beat some who's who as single individual wrestlers in WWE or WWF at the time, and they beat some known tag teams in WCW. One thing that I will say here, and I'm not sure if our listeners would agree, and if you guys agree. One thing that I think that I saw mostly from the outsiders was when I started watching them in WCW, it was a lot of the numbers game. It wasn't so much them two. It was the numbers game. So maybe I missed out on something from their initial run in WCW. So
Well,
just these two teams going.
I'll say I don't know if it'll affect your decision or not, but they were highly successful when they first got there because they always talked about there being a third man, but nobody knew who it was for quite a bit when they had first got there. And they basically came in and had dominated the locker room initially when they first came in, and they were a very dominant tag team just by themselves prior to the actual formation of the NWO. But continue.
This is one of those times that I think I'm going against everything that I've always believed in and said when it comes to wrestling. But I just think that when it comes to the size, when it comes to the strength, even though the speed wasn't there, the psychology definitely was there and makes up more than enough. I'm really struggling for someone who loves them boys that so much, so to speak. I'm really having a hard time putting them over the outsiders, even though, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not a fan. Two ways forward. But I think I'm gonna go with the outsiders on this one, and then I'll go take a shower after we're done with the podcast. But not for what you think, but because
Feeling
I'm
dirty. Yeah, I
I
got
am
you.
dirty. I am a dirty owl.
Big Daddy D soul.
All right. So it comes down to me for this one. All right. So to be honest, I had to go watch more stuff after all the stuff had happened back in July, and the Briscoes had moved on some. I had to go back and watch more of the Briscoes stuff because I had watched some of their stuff and I studied them obviously, but I was like, there's got to be something that I'm not seeing. I mean, I enjoyed them and looking at the talent that they wrestled. And it's decent. It's fairly impressive. The only thing for me that comes to mind, and I think the issue that the Briscoes are going to have is when they had worked their way up the tournament, it seemed like the teams that they had faced throughout the tournament, they could outmuscle and outfly throughout the tournament. They had the Bushwhackers in one of the rounds, and then I don't remember who they got after that, but I just remember us talking about it and going, you know what? Yeah, the Briscoes could outmuscle those teams, or they could just use pure speed and outmaneuver them. I don't think they can do that against the outsiders. Definitely not outmuscle either of them. But when it comes to just terms of both those guys, both Hall and Nash were such great, accomplished singles wrestlers. They didn't do a lot of double team moves, but they didn't have to. They were just so dominant as singles wrestlers. I can't do it. I can't look at the Briscoes and go, you know what, they were a better team than the outsiders. And that's taking, I'm not looking at title reigns. I'm not looking at anything like that. I'm just looking at Scott Hall, Kevin Nash when they first made that initial break into WCW, which, sparked the Monday Night Wars. But WCW had some good tag teams and they had some good talent there. But when Hall and Nash arrived, it was like WWF had invaded, and these two guys were better than anyone else that they had in their entire roster when they first arrived. And I just think they were that dominant that I can't put the Briscoes over the outsiders. I really think the outsiders are going to have to be pressed to the finals.
Just in case, the Briscoes in our fantasy tournament beat the Bushwhackers, then they beat the Midnight Express, and then they beat the New Age Outlaws.
Yeah, and that's what I remember now, because when they beat the Midnight Express, I was just absolutely shocked. I remember them beating the New Age Outlaws. To me, wasn't that huge of a stretch. I could believe that based on the matchups. But man, the Midnight Express that's their token victory in this whole tournament, and one of the ones that surprised me the most out of any of the other results. And here they are. A great showing, made it all the way to the semifinals out of all these teams. So obviously, great tag team. I just don't think they quite have what it takes to overcome the outsiders.
And it's not even prestige, guys, because I think
Yeah.
as tag teams and tag teams alone, I think what the Briscoes have done, probably tag team wise accomplishments, probably surpasses these guys with what they've done. Because I'm not sure how much this Hall and Nash did outside of WCW across the different wrestling companies across the globe. These guys have succeeded. Japan, all of Europe, all the different companies in the U.S. So obviously the the Briscoes have the prestige. There's no questioning. I just think the size, man, the size and the power is just what gets me, and just who they were as wrestlers. That's what's really gave me a hard time putting them over. But those guys
Yeah.
are just amazing in their own right. For those, if they never make it to WWE, they'll be part of a list of, in my opinion, elite wrestlers that for whatever reason never got to what most consider the big show. But they've done their own. They have their own. They have a legacy already. So
Yeah. All right. So that's going to bring us to the finals where we decide who we believe the greatest tag team of all time was based on these brackets, the old school versus new school that we worked up. And not that surprisingly, we have two, I guess, older school teams that are kind of put into this bracket. So that's going to bring us to the Legion of Doom versus the Outsiders. Obviously, standard tag match. This is the Outsiders without Hulk Hogan, so I'll take outside interference out of this one. Who do you guys got? Cedric?
oh man, having said everything we said in preparation to this moment, I will choose LOD by the slightest of margins, to be honest, because like I never got to see them as much as I've heard from you guys and what I saw as I was studying for during the tournament. Oh, I didn't get to see much of the Outsiders, in case you guys are wondering, but I just think LOD again, they personify strength, technicality, athleticism, and just brute strength. And even though I just mentioned that Hall and Nash had that strength, Hall and Nash had that psychology as individuals, and they some way somehow made it work as a tag team. I just think even though they're friends and consider each other brothers, I think the brotherhood that LOD had would just push them over. I think they would just find a way to beat them. It won't be an easy fight. Like you said, they've squashed some of the who's who of many companies. I don't think that will be the case here, but I think some way somehow, not Hawk, Animal will lift one of these guys in one of the most incredible feats of strength and the Doomsday Device finisher move, which has been emulated from so many tag teams as a show of respect and appreciation to this team. I think that they will find a way to win, and I think the crowd will love it.
Either way, yeah, I think they'll love it. Win, loser, whoever wins or loses this match, it would be something incredible. Hulkster, what do you think?
Man, this is all right. So as much as we put over Hall and Nash going into this, they definitely had an uphill battle because of the quality of teams they faced. And going into this, I think they've taken a lot of damage because of what they've had to overcome. And LOD is just a wrecking crew. And I'm gonna have to keep it kayfabe, to be honest, to finish this one out. I'm not gonna go scientific. I'm not gonna go truly analytical. I'm just gonna go straight kayfabe. Nash pulls a quad, and LOD wins.
Kevin Nash blows a quad and it ends it.
Oh my gosh, that was on mute. That is awesome. Oh my
God, you're messed up.
Oh
Oh,
man. Oh, weakest quads of
so
the
funny,
game.
but it's so true.
Him and Vince McMahon. Oh, jeez. All right. Well, obviously then, because you both picked Legion of Doom, that means they are going to win this tournament. And I have to say that LOD is going to win this matchup. As physically dominant both those guys are as singles wrestlers, like I said, physically I don't think they would match up against the Legion of Doom either, and the Legion of Doom can work a little bit better as a team. I see I see Kevin Nash going up on the shoulders of Animal quite impressively, and Hawk coming off that top rope to hit the Doomsday device. Then Kevin Nash blows a quad. Then they win. So, yeah. Interesting. So, our winners of what we would consider old school versus new school, greatest tag team of all time, is the Legion of Doom. Was there any doubt from the beginning? You know? Man.
I really can't say so. At the beginning when we started this, I was honestly in favor of the Hart Foundation, but going up against LOD, man, it's hard not to go for the Road Warriors here. If we saw a championship match against Hart Foundation, I think I may have actually gone the other way because it's hard to root against Bret Hart when it comes to a finals match.
Big matches.
But yeah, I got to say LOD deserved to win this one.
What's your thoughts of the old tournament, Cedric?
Love it or hate it, it was fun. It definitely.
Am I still on mute?
No,
I
I
want to
can.
say something
I,
bad.
I,
And
I,
okay, I
I,
want to make
I
sure because I had it unmuted for a second there. I was cleaning up a little bit. Um, it was frustrating at times. There were times, especially at the beginning, not really understanding or having a true, hey, this is the path to follow. There were teams that I look back and I definitely wished I would have gone the other way. But at the end of the day, I think that from all the tag teams that we had and the side and the bracket that LOD ended up on, I just couldn't see too many people beating them. That's the honest truth. Even if a New Day would have gone through, that at one point I thought maybe they should have gone through. I think still even with the third man outside. Well, you know what? Let me be honest. That would have made it very interesting because that third man outside definitely has helped quite a lot. The New Day stay where they're at, but just I I, I don't think even New Day going through, British Bulldogs going through at one point, whoever went through, I think at the end of the day these guys were just that much strong, much more powerful. Not because they were made to look that way, but I think they just were that much more powerful. So
Mhm.
it's good. Makes you look at the past, look at the current folks, and appreciate more. You either appreciate more the good old days, or you appreciate what some of these new guys have done to build their own legacy. So it's just really fun. It was really fun.
Yeah. And so, just to keep the creative juices flowing a little bit, so to speak. Ooh. When it comes to these fantasy bookings, I think I had a really good idea to um, for us to take a look at the United States Championships, and I think our next tournament should be taking the top 32, in our opinion, United States champions of all time and putting them into a bracket, and we will come to a decision over who we think is the best United States champion of all time. I think
I
that.
just bought the box set
Hey, here
that
you go.
WWE produced not too long ago, so I can definitely get back with you guys
Yep.
on my picks. That'll be great.
Because yeah, I'll start looking at the list here and kind of going through and taking a look at the different people who've held the title, and we'll try to get a good mix of really old school. 'Cause the title began in 1975, so with Harley Race. So we'll try to see if
Nice.
we can go back and look at if we can find anything from the 70s with Harley Race in it, or even 70s Terry Funk, and take a look at some of their stuff versus, you know, the stuff we have today with what we talked about, we thought was a really good United States run with John Cena. And what we're going to try to focus on is going to be that time period when they held the title. So we're not going to be looking at them from the perspective of their all
Overall?
time. We're going to be looking at them kind of when they actually held the title. So just something to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
Sounds
you
good.
already answered my question. I was going to ask if you wanted to do NWA and WCW included in that, but I mean, if you're going to throw Harley Race in there, we have to.
Yep, and like I said, Harley Race held it for over 6 months back in 1975. He was the first one ever, and then there's lots of really good champions. But what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to take the top 32 people who held it the longest, and we're just going to put them into a bracket, and we're going to take a look at what we think of those guys during that time. It looks like most everybody we should be able to find stuff for. The only thing that'll be tough is late 70s Ric Flair stuff, but everybody else pretty much is fairly recent, so we should be able to find some good material. But yeah, should be a good time, should be fun, something to look forward to. So let's see. That finishes our fantasy booking. We've kind of talked about a couple subjects. Does anybody got a praise or a rant this week that they want to talk about? Get comments on?
You got anything, Cedric?
My only, I think the one praise that I had written down was just how good of a wrestling match both Rusev and Roman Reigns had these past two outings that they fought against each other. I think that it kind of quieted some of the naysayers and the haters on the part of can Roman wrestle. That's just my opinion, and definitely showed the great athlete that Rusev is. That's my praise. My not so praise, my rant. I think once again, I know a lot of people disagree with what I've said in the past, but I think this audience that we've seen, where you have two good wrestlers putting a great show, and they start screaming CM Punk. I don't get it, guys. I don't know what your take is on it. I understand I understand the whole freedom. You pay good money to be there, but I just don't get it. I'll be honest with you. Maybe it's the fan in me, the hardcore fan that I am. If I'm gonna pay good money, or if somebody even invites me and pays the money for me to enjoy a wrestling show, why am I wasting my time calling out the name of someone that has no desire to come back, wants nothing to do with the WWE especially after getting $500,000 for the squash match that he had, or fight. So why do you keep calling him? Why is almost disrespectful for me? If you really love wrestling, if you're a passionate wrestling fan, or even if you're there, there's got to be a reason why you're in that arena watching that show. Why just become that one or ones, because it's only one person, and just do that? I don't get it. People can explain it to me as to why they can do what they can, but you know what? Just because you can do something doesn't mean you have to do it. And that's my biggest rant.
Well said. Hawkster?
Yeah, I'm going to pull one from Clash of Champions as well, and I'm going to praise Cesaro and Sheamus for their match. That was unbelievable what we saw, especially from Cesaro, who I think we've all shared our gripes and complaints about recently. But holy cow, like they threw so much out there that I've never seen before. Freaking Sheamus with his wheel kick in the corner, like whoever thought they'd see Sheamus do a flipping wheel kick, and Cesaro with the uppercut train into a tornado DDT. Man, like there was so much in there. Celtic Cross into a knee breaker from Sheamus. Like there was so much in that match that I was really impressed by. As soon as the match started, I was thinking, man, what can these guys do that we haven't seen before? This is going to be like a C minus D match because we've seen everything. But I gave that match an A plus, dropped down to an A minus because of the finish, kind of cattywampus. But man, I loved watching that match. That was probably the one match during that entire show that I was on my feet for, and I loved it. I really don't have anything to complain about other than that ending.
All right. Do you have any rants today?
Yeah, my rant is that ending, man. I mean, you call it a best of seven, and then you end up with a no finish. Like, really? Do you guys really have nothing else for these guys? I mean, after watching Raw, found out they have them putting in a tag team together. Like, really, that's the best you have for them? We all know that Sheamus and Cesaro aren't gonna frickin' dethrone the New Day, and if they do, I don't think that I would want to see that. I want to see them as singles, and I want to see them pushed as singles.
Okay, interesting. Well, for me today, I know I follow some of the St. Louis independent wrestling scene around here, and it may not seem that impressive just because it's small uh, promotion type of wrestling. But one of the guys who ran Pro Wrestling Epic, he allowed me to come out to one of his shows to do some commentary. The first time I ever got to do it. This last week or maybe his week before, he is now the proud owner of 3 championship belts in this region. He owns the Wrestling Invades America title, the Wrestling Invades America Interstate Championship, which is kind of like a television title type thing, like a mid card title, and then he also just won the Pro Wrestling Epic Championship as well. So he now owns basically a triple crown of championships, and I don't care what promotion you belong in, that's pretty impressive. That's starting to get up there like a lot of those pro boxer areas where they have about 10 belts that they bring out to the ring. So just good on you, Leon Mephisto. Even though you're a bad guy, you're not really a bad guy. All right. So that's my praise this week. My rant this week, I think I think for me, the only thing I really have to complain about this week is CM Punk chants. Why? Like, why are we still doing it? I read online that there is rumors that the WWE is planting people in the crowd to chant CM Punk. I don't believe that. I think that that's kind of crazy to even think and or believe. But during the cruiserweight matches, this is what was going on Monday Night Raw. It's flat disrespectful, and there was no need for it. It's not like it was a terrible match. It's not like there was anything, bad going on in that match. So I'm at a loss for words, fans, as to why that was happening and what kind of point you were trying to prove by chanting that. I'm still very, 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 very confused. So that's what I got. Anybody else got anything to take away?
Well, I I can see that maybe happening, paying off some fans to chant CM Punk, especially after his not so glorious debut in mixed martial arts. That the company would want him back, and why would you not want him back? The guy's pure money. But that's pretty low. That is pretty low, and it's been so long. Like, as much as I would love to see him make a return to wrestling, I think he's over it, and I think we all just need to move on and enjoy the new generation of what we're seeing. A new generation that CM Punk paved the way for. So just let it go, let it go.
Yeah.
And that's my Frozen reference for the century.
As I always say, Frozen that shit. Very good. All right. So that covers us for about an hour and a half worth of content. You guys got any other topics? Any other the toss-ups that you guys want to throw in here to talk about?
I agree with Hawk Stanley, man, that I was very I was not sold from the beginning on a best of 7 series between Cesaro and Sheamus, but boy was I enjoyed every match. I kept on saying, like, what else can these guys do to top the other match? And even though you saw certain moves that are their unique move sets, so you're gonna see them match after match, I was surprised with the things they were throwing out that you had never seen from them. And Sheamus had, like you said, some pretty good athletic moves. And if anybody has ever questioned the strength of Cesaro, then I don't understand why you would continue to do so. Not too sure
if we're gonna have magic between them two as a tag team, but definitely they did a pretty good job in that best of 7 series. So kudos on them for such a great pairing for their matches. I still want to see Chris Hero one day in WWE with Claudio Castelloni as the Kings of Wrestling, but I might not get that one. But let's see what happens with Sheamus and Cesaro.
All right. Well,
I got one final, I guess, just current events in wrestling to see what your guys' thoughts are. Still being rumored and still in the works from what I've read on Wrestling Inc. But WWE buying TNA, will it happen? And if so, what does that do to post WWE guys like Cody and Rex Aaron, as he's now known?
Aaron Rex, right?
That's right. I had it backwards. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I just so want to call him Damian Sandow.
Oh man, boy, I wish we had the optimistic one here to tell us about TNA, but I don't know who's gonna buy him, but I think they're done, personally. Up to the minute, last I had checked, they're gonna go forward with Bound for Glory, and they have somehow found the funding for these TV tapings. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what Dixie Carter had last said. Last I had heard, they still didn't know how they were going to fund it. So unless somebody has miraculously come in and backed them, I don't know who's funding it. WWE was said to have sort of backed off wanting to purchase, but the rumor had it that they were just backing off because they wanted to just sort of wait. They were willing to close the deal at the last possible minute if they needed to. They kind of hold all the cards. I don't know if you guys have seen much of the product lately, but honestly, the TNA product has not been that bad. It's actually been a pretty good product overall. Particularly, I like the stuff with the Decay and the Broken Hardys that's been going on. I thought that's been some really good stuff. But yeah, I think they're done. Personally, I would love the WWE to buy them just for the video library. It makes the network an even bigger must-have, and I have not watched any early TNA, and I would love to go back and watch early TNA wrestling.
Yeah, I agree with you. If not for the video library, there's really not a lot else to do with it, and it's kind of a shame because I've been really enjoying TNA the last month or two, especially their main event card too with Ethan Carter III. Man, this guy's turning into a big main event face, and I never really thought I'd ever see that.
Well, I could see Lashley and Lesnar making some money.
Yeah. My gosh, especially now.
If they really wanted to. Lashley has come along so much from a persona standpoint, from a physicality standpoint, and you want to talk about somebody that could get in there and get legit physical with Brock Lesnar, I would definitely pay money to watch those guys. You got to get Lashley a mouthpiece on the same level as Paul Heyman though, and I don't know if they have that available right now.
Eric Bischoff?
Ooh. Can he? Yeah, I would say, can he manage a face? I don't even know if he could manage a face wrestler. I would see Lashley being the face going into that.
Who says they have to be face versus face?
Oh man,
Why can't we have like an Umaga kind of thing?
Isn't Lesnar a heel now though? After the whole Randy Orton ordeal, he was definitely getting booed a lot.
Who says it has to be face versus heel? Like, would you not pay money for heel versus heel in that kind of situation?
I would pay money to watch them go at it in a legit like MMA fight if we're not going to have too much build up. But if it's just going to be them, because you got to get somebody that can compete with Paul Heyman to really make this feud work. And I don't know who has the chops right now to step in there and be able to help Lashley cut promos. But I don't know. Either way, I'd watch it regardless.
Mike Bennett and his girl Maria.
I just don't want to watch Mike Bennett wrestle anymore. I don't know. Just not a fan of the
Yeah.
guy. I don't know.
Yeah, but you got to admit though, Maria is a great mouthpiece and has a great mouthpiece.
Good lord. I like how Cedric's staying out of this one. He's like, "Yep, I'm not even gonna comment."
Yeah, the whole mouthpiece. Yeah. I personally, I won't not gonna lie to you. From the standpoint of the video library that these guys would have, if they were to buy TNA, that would be amazing because I started watching TNA from its beginnings, and it was just something so different, so fresh, so new at the time. The names, the wrestlers, the wrestling, the titles, the different stipulations. I thought it was amazing. I'm not one of those that celebrates a company going down. I don't understand why you would even do that. That's employees that lose their job. You know what I'm saying? And a paycheck that, even if they're not getting paid too much for what I've heard and rumors from TNA, but it's still these guys don't know what's gonna happen next. You know, obviously they're not gonna get the same kind of money from smaller indie companies, but if WWE were to buy them, you know, definitely the library that they will acquire will be amazing. Definitely even more reason to watch or to own the network or the membership.
Yeah.
But I was telling my wife, I was like, you know, I wouldn't mind if the money was there and the capability was there to do so. I wouldn't mind TNA being part of the network the way NXT is. Some way, somehow, a brilliant mind within the company to be able to sustain TNA on the network. You know, put some money into it, revamp maybe the roster, have some of the guys every now and then show up when you least expect it to either NXT or even the main roster. I don't know. There's so many possibilities. You know, if you let imagination run wild, like Hulk Hogan ran wild in that point. I mean, whatever.
Oh,
Anyway,
Love with a Love Sponge. Continue.
yep.
But not the
there
way
was
he
no
ran wild over TNA.
there was no love in that sponge. But anyway,
Mhm.
yuck. Anyway,
Just a little.
there's
Anyway, continue.
anyway. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I thought about Monica's dress. Anyway, oh my gosh, I guess it's starting to get late. But anyway, what I think is there is potential. You know, there is potential within WWE if they were to purchase TNA. That's just what, in my opinion. And like you said, the product has gotten better, and there's still marketability, and you know there's some use to some of these wrestlers. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but some of these guys can make for some interesting storylines. And definitely, if you keep them as their own brand, as NXT has grown, and you use them cross company, so to speak, even though they're on the same umbrella, I think there's some pretty good matchups. There are some really good matchups. And if you throw the cruiserweight champions on Raw, and then all of a sudden you surprise everybody with some sort of X division on SmackDown, you're talking about now you have two companies truly battling against each other under the umbrella of WWE. There is potential. There is potential there.
I would say if WWE were to buy out TNA, I would not want to see it on main roster. And the main reason is because of the amount of talent that TNA has that kind of floundered on the WWE main roster, mainly creative and booking reasons. But if they were to buy, I would love to see an NXT Invasion style. And the main reason I say that is because one of the cool things about TNA is that most of their talent isn't exclusively signed. You still see them in a lot of indie shows like Evolve and WCPW over in England. So I think it would be pretty cool to see some of the rivalries boosted back up that you see with some of the NXT talent, specifically Johnny Gargano and Drew Gallows and EC3 when EC3 was still heel. I would love to see some of that gen up, and I think that would be kind of neat to see.
Right as we're talking, guys, I just saw something posted on John Canton's page that Robbie the Brain Heenan, who obviously is a play on Bobby the Brain Heenan, but he has apparently has a source where they're talking about that WWE has offered the most money to TNA and most likely is going to get this deal now. So I'm trying to watch this stuff up to the minute. But yeah, crazy. I also saw Drew Galloway just got pulled from Bound for Glory. He'll no longer be in the show, assuming it still continues on as normal on Sunday. The plot thickens.
There's potential, man. There's potential for everybody who's hated on TNA. I don't know why they have the talent, and just like how Stanley said, some of these guys are names in other companies, so I don't know. I don't know why people hate so much on a company, If you're a true wrestling fan, you support wrestling wherever it comes from, whether it's, TNA, WWE, Ring of Honor, or just two chickens. I don't know.
I think at the end of the day, people, it just got cool to hate TNA, much like it got cool to boo Roman Reigns,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I guess from that perspective, but just thinking about it, even that Bobby Lashley Brock Lesnar sounded pretty interesting.
Oh
So,
yeah, I mean to me that would be big. I would love to see that if they can get it done. It'd be better than Goldberg. I'm still buying
definitely.
the video game though, no doubt.
Oh yeah, it's already pre-ordered.
Up, got it on the pre-order. I started working on my stats already to get all the wrestlers restatted, so my kids don't have to wait so darn long to play the game. That's right, it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Speaking of the video game, I just watched a video of early stuff with Up, Down, Down,
Yeah.
Austin Creed, Xavier Woods for you guys who don't watch his show on YouTube. But it was AJ Styles in the corner of a fan versus Sasha Banks in the corner of another fan. And it was AJ Styles versus John Cena. John Cena beat AJ Styles. And AJ said the stats are wrong in this game. And I loved it so much.
That's pretty good. Well, all right, guys. That about sums it up. It's getting late here. I'm going to try to track down some more TNA news. And it's a great show tonight. I had fun, a lot of talking, and I know we'll have to try to get another person on here to talk with us. But like always, a great time.
Agreed, and I can't wait to do this U.S. Champion tournament. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, and I said I just saw the names you sent along to me, and it's pretty stacked. So I'm probably going to randomize the names and put them into a bracket, and then we'll see what happens from there, and we can work on trying to watch some of these matches, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. So, Cedric, you got anything before we sign off?
Yeah, I was gonna look up a few myself. I'll send you what I find. Like I said, that having bought that DVD is gonna be probably a huge boost, or not. I'm not gonna call it advantage, but it definitely doesn't hurt to have WWE's box set, three disc box set, the best U.S. champions of all time. So sorry, and I know they have one of the first matches is Harley Race. So I'm pretty sure it's his first match when he won it. So I'll send you some names. It'll probably be similar to how sent, but hopefully there might be a name or two that you'll be like, it'd be kind of interesting to search some stuff on this person.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Sounds great, you guys. And like I say, please give us feedback if you can. Once again, we're part of the W2M network. Check them out on the new website that they got going on. And if you like what you hear, be sure you let us know. If you don't, you need to let us know. That way we can continue to modify the show. And if there's anything else, I guess until next time, court is adjourned. Thank you.
The following podcast is a W2M Network partnership production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.